Game never stops, and neither do we. Welcome to the SDH Network. We're always around the corner from everywhere. Morning Espresso is brought to you by Oglethorpe University, Atlanta's premier undergraduate learning experience and soccer powerhouse. I'm Jason Longshore. It is Friday the 13th. Today, Atleti, they gave Barcelona quite the scare at the Metropolitano last night. Atlanta's World Cup planning shifts a little bit deeper into tournament time reality, and River Plate is in crisis in Buenos Aires. We'll get into all of that this morning on the Morning Espresso. Let's go to Madrid to start things. Atleti, they didn't just beat Barcelona on Thursday. They detonated the Copa del Rey semifinal. 4 goals in the first half. A stunned Camp Nou-bound opponent. They got to get back home and try to overturn a 4-goal deficit. And this Copa del Rey semifinal feels very tilted towards Diego Simeone's side after a ruthless win in Madrid. Started with chaos. Barcelona goalkeeper Joan Garcia, who is trying to play his way into the Spanish national team for the summer, he misplayed a pass, and even though he swatted the ball back into play, it was already too late. Ademola Lookman pounced. Atleti had the opener before Barca could even settle in. From there, the Metropolitano turned into a storm. Antoine Griezmann doubled the lead with a sweeping finish against his former club. Lookman struck again after a flowing move, and Julian Alvarez capped the first half avalanche in first half stoppage time. Atleti's front four interpreted everything correctly. They picked up on every gap, every hesitation, every loose moment in Barcelona's shape and just punished them with efficiency. Alvarez in particular, he looked reborn. After an 11-match scoring drought, he delivered both an assist and a goal. Simeone called his first half work rate incredible and saying the breakthrough could reset what comes next. For Atleti, sitting well off the La Liga pace, the Copa del Rey suddenly seems like their most important road to silverware. In Barcelona, they tried to stabilize after halftime, but nothing went their way. Pau Cubarsí, he saw a goal ruled out after an 8-minute VAR review. Eric Garcia was sent off late after his yellow was upgraded to red. Frustration boiled over into touchline melees and missed chances that summed up a forgettable night for Barca. Hansi Flick didn't sugarcoat it afterwards. He called the performance a wake-up call, pointed to the lack of pressing and distance between his players. Atleti, they fed off the stadium's energy. Simeone said nights like this will live in the memory no matter what happens in the second leg. Barcelona's got 3 weeks to find answers in this one before the March 3rd match at the Estadio Camp Nou. Atleti, they have every reason to believe this was more than just a result. It was a statement. We will see if this game means more than just the result. Let's bring it back home. Yesterday, there was a media roundtable from the Atlanta World Cup host committee, and it made one thing clear. Atlanta's deep into the operational phase now. Roughly 4 months to go until the first match here in Atlanta. The focus has turned fully to tournament time reality with mobility, airport flow, the visitor experience at the center of all the planning. The backbone of Atlanta's pitch, it's logistics. Leaders emphasized the rare combination of the busiest airport in the world, direct rail access from terminal to downtown in about 20 minutes, and a downtown footprint where hotels, stadium, fan fest, and major attractions all sit within walking distance. That accessibility, it's not just a convenience, it's Atlanta's competitive advantage as a host city and hosting major events. MARTA's role will be front and center. Officials highlighted the direct stadium access via the SEC district and the Vine City stations, $2.50 one-way fare from the airport, and the rollout of upgraded payment options through the Better Breeze system, including tap-to-pay and mobile wallets. The goal is a smoother experience not only for visitors but for residents navigating the city during this busy time over the summer. At the airport, the preparations are focused on scale, security, sense of place. Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport expects increased international and private aviation traffic. It's coordinating with regional airports and working on interim fixes for known bottlenecks between the international terminal and the MARTA access. The airport also properly framed itself as Atlanta's living room. It's in many ways the first place you see when you arrive and the last place you see before you leave. That first and last impression for the world this summer is so important. The broader theme of the conversation was connectivity between agencies, between neighborhoods, between Atlanta's global identity and the visitors arriving from around the world. Atlanta's been there and done that. I think there was a question late in it about, what does Atlanta have to do to prove it's a global city? And it is a global city. And I think maybe some folks don't realize that, and that's okay. The quote that I loved was, Atlanta just has to remind everyone that it's a global city. We'll see if that reminder hits this summer. Host committee leaders repeatedly pointed to Atlanta's experience in hosting major events, the cultural diversity, the walkable concentration of activity downtown as the foundation for a World Cup that feels both international and very local. Check out more at SDH at the SDH website, soccerdownhere.net, for how MARTA is going to be so important this summer. And then we've got plenty more coverage coming on SDH as Atlanta and the region continue preparing for this summer's World Cup moment. Let's go to Buenos Aires. The crisis at River Plate continues to deepen their struggles, just adding on a 1-0 loss last night to Argentinos Juniors. Team has been very disjointed, very off form, and it's not just this season in the Apertura. Argentinos took control in La Paternal through Hernan Lopez Muñoz's goal, punished a River side that looked short on conviction, lacking a clear attacking identity. Marcelo Gallardo's night unraveled further when he was sent off late in the first half after a heated exchange with the referee. The dismissal just added another layer of frustration to an evening that already felt really heavy. River just can't impose themselves on anybody right now. Feels like they're chasing games all the time and kind of running themselves into circles. Juanfer Quintero afterwards, he didn't shy away from accountability. He offered some blunt self-criticism, saying that River's current level is far below the standard required and that the team just has to confront the reality of how bad it's playing at the moment. The assistant coach, Matias Biscay, he spoke in place of Gallardo after the send-off. He tried to strike a calmer tone, but he admitted that the issues are obvious. River's not creating enough. Argentinos were sharper on the night, and the second half belonged to the hosts. River is really in a bad spot for a while now. They're not in the Copa Libertadores this year. They finished last season poorly. They're starting this season poorly. Marcelo Gallardo was re-upped with a new contract, and then everything kind of went south in the performances, and that's not, intentional. It's just the reality at the moment, and how do they fix this? I don't know, because this does not look like River Plate at the moment, and it is a crisis in Buenos Aires. We'll see if they can find their way out of it. Let's bring it back to the domestic focus. Let's talk about two players that I feel like we've talked about a lot this week, Christian Pulisic and Weston McKennie. Reports popped up this morning that Tottenham Hotspur are very interested in Christian Pulisic. Other Premier League clubs are monitoring closely as well. Liverpool's name has been mentioned closely. But Milan is saying that they are going to negotiate a new contract with him. They just have a couple other people in line first. Weston McKennie could be one of those players that is in line to go to Milan. He's out of contract at Juventus in the summer. He could go to Milan on a free. Milan could try to bring Pulisic and McKennie together, although Inter and Roma are tracking the situation as well on Weston McKennie. DC United, they're pushing a major expansion project into Baltimore, proposing a 12,000-seat stadium complex at Carroll Park that would house an MLS Next Pro affiliate, a professional women's team backed by Carmelo Anthony, and youth academies. So you've got Carmelo Anthony involved, you've got new state bond legislation involved, and it's a pretty ambitious effort to build a wider and deeper footprint in the region. This morning on SDH AM, it starts at 9:05. John Nelson hosting. He's bringing you updates from day one of the 2026 Creek Cup. We'll be back out there today. I'll be at Johns Creek. John will be at Northview. Madison Cruz will be joining me. Drew Dickinson will be heading over to Northview. Talk about yesterday's media event as well on Apple TV's coverage of MLS heading into the new season. John's also going to welcome Dr. Jen Fry, founder of Cordal. It's a platform designed to simplify group travel logistics for sports fans, and that is very important with a World Cup coming and all kinds of different logistics as fans move around the country in the group stage and beyond. That's going to be at 9:05. If you miss it live, you can always catch it on demand on YouTube, on Twitch, and as a podcast later today. Now the refill, news from around the world. Arsenal, they had a chance to restore their 6-point lead at the top of the Premier League, but it's only 4. They settled for a 1-1 draw at Brentford. Noni Madueke's header gave the Gunners the lead, but they gave that lead up. Brentford got a deserved point, and it's a 4-point lead at the top of the Premier League now over Manchester City. Tottenham, they have reportedly opened talks with former Juventus coach Igor Tudor as they continue their search for Thomas Frank's replacement. It looks like they're going to hire an interim to finish the season out and then look for Tudor in the summer. We'll see if that comes together. Carlo Ancelotti, his name was expected to be on the lists for a few different clubs, but it's looking like he's going to sign a new 4-year contract with the Brazilian Federation to stay in charge of the Brazilian national team through 2030. Pretty much viewed as a formality at this stage. Michael O'Neill, he sees all the managerial carousel things spinning, so he grabs 2 hobby horses. He is going to be the new Blackburn Rovers manager until the end of the season, balancing club duties with his upcoming international playoffs with the Northern Ireland national team. I don't know. If I'm Northern Ireland, I would not be very happy about that situation with World Cup qualifying playoffs coming up in March, but okay. Raheem Sterling, he has joined Feyenoord as a free agent. He'll be there through the end of the season. The 31-year-old called the move a fresh challenge. He's looking forward to his first club experience abroad. Cruz Azul, they demolished Vancouver FC 5-0 on the night. 8-0 aggregate win in the first round of the CONCACAF Champions Cup. Luca Romero with a hat trick. Cruz Azul will face Monterrey in March. Palmeiras, they have climbed to the top of the Brasileiro with a 3-1 win at Internacional. The starting 11 is starting to solidify for Palmeiras, and you're seeing a really good play from this group right now. Improved build-up, more fluid attack. Vitor Roque has been excellent for this team. It's not perfect, but they are at the top of the table, and it feels like they're growing. Could be one of the contenders for the Copa Libertadores later this year. Mexico have officially qualified for the 2026 World Cup at the CONCACAF U17 tournament. Strong results in the qualifying phase. They get there. They've been excellent at Youth World Cups. They have often been contenders to win them, and we'll see if this year is an exception to that or if they continue their usual strong performances. But everybody in Mexico is looking forward to Saturday night. It is Chivas and Club America. Brian Rodriguez was at the center of the pre-match buzz, has been talking about just the back and forth between these two teams. This is always a huge game, and with Chivas undefeated and Club America in a little bit of a slump, it feels like an even bigger match. Saturday, 10 o'clock on the Atlanta side of things there. Going to be a fun one to watch on 2DNA. Definitely looking forward to that. Okay, final whistle at Leti. They delivered the shock of the Copa del Rey semis, a first-half blitz that stunned Barca. River, they continue in full crisis mode. You have all kinds of things happening. Arsenal, the Premier League's getting a little dicier. We'll see. But here in Atlanta, the countdown continues to the summer with all of the logistical things starting to come into shape. Don't forget SDH AM. John has got you covered with all the conversation about the news of the day. Looking forward to the next day of the Creek Cup. Games are at 6 and 8 tonight. You can listen to them, soccerdownhere.net/listen. I'll be at Johns Creek the next 2 days. Madison Cruz will be there. John will be calling games at Northview. Drew Dickinson will be calling games everywhere. Going to be a busy time on the SDH network. Hopefully you can join us for some of it. I'll be back with another Morning Espresso on Monday. Y'all have a good weekend. Enjoy your soccer wherever it may be, and we'll compare notes over a cup of coffee on Monday. See ya.